Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at an ancient relic from, I think it's the 80s, and it's a survive, escape from Atlantis. And in this game what you'll be doing, you'll be taking the role of stranded maritime workers, and you'll be stranded on this island that is sinking into the sea stage by stage. And what you'll be trying to do, you'll be trying to scramble into these lifeboats and try and reach the edges of the map to get to safety before the volcano erupts. And you're going to have to sort of negotiate some whales and sharks and all sorts of beasties of the deep. In this video we'll be giving you a rough overview of the rules. We'll be telling you what we do like, what we don't like, and then we'll come back and we'll tell you whether or not Survive Escape from Atlantis is still worth paying 30 odd years after its first release. So if you're new here, please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit the subscription button and leave a comment in the section down below, and we'll see you after this.
Board games 4K.
So Survive Escape from Atlantis, we've got the 30th anniversary edition. I think that's around about sort of 5 or 6 years old that we've had it now. It's nearly 40 years old, and it was first published by, I think it's NB Games, and it's continually be reprinted. It's just got a reprint, or a few years ago got a reprint from Stronghold Games. So these games, it's a bit of a spoiler for you. These games keep getting reprinted because they're so popular and they're so timeless, right? So in this game, what you'll be doing, you've got your little plastic sailors, and underneath on the base of the sailors is a points value from 1 to 6, and what you'll be doing, you'll be making up the board randomly out of these 3 types of terrain. You've got beach terrain, you've got forest terrain, and you've got mountains, and you'll be placing all them out randomly, and one of them's got the volcano underneath it. When you turn the tiles out, they've got like a sort of special ability that you can trigger at the beginning of the game. Anyway, once you've set up the tiles on the board and made up the islands, you'll be placing your workers, I suppose, out on the board. Once everyone's done that, then you'll be doing 4 things in order. The first thing you can do is you can play a tile that you've collected from your hand, and that will give you like either a one-shot ability. Second thing you can do is you can move your sailors around the map, and you get 3 movement points. You can split them up between different sailors, and you can split them up between moving on water and moving on land. And what you'll be doing, you can either move from one piece of terrain to the next. You can move into water, you can move onto a boat, or you can move a boat, or you can move out of the boat. So if your sailors are swimmers in the sea, if they're not on land, they can't move back onto land. So once everybody's moved, then you'll be going on to the next phase, which is you will have to take one of the island tiles off the board and put it into your hand. And this may mean that you have to remove that one of your sailors that's on land becomes a swimmer. And then what you do, you'll turn the tile over, and if it's green, you'll resolve that straight away. So it might be a whirlpool that destroys everything on the tile and everything adjacent to the tile. It may be that you get to put one of the sharks or sea monsters on the board, and you get to move them. Or it may be something else. It may be a red tile that means you can take that into your hand and trigger that at the beginning of the round, like we just said. So once you've done that, then you'll roll the die, and depending on what you roll, you'll either be moving a whale 1 to 3 spaces, you'll be moving a shark 1 to 2 spaces, we'll be moving a sea monster 1 space. And basically whales attack boats, sharks attack swimmers, and sea monsters attack anything. Okay, the way the game works, so the map will be shrinking bit by bit, because you'll be taking the beach tiles first, then you'll be taking the forest tiles, and then you'll be taking the mountain tiles, and underneath one of the mountain tiles is a volcano. Once you reveal the volcano, the game ends, and any sailors that you've rescued on the land bits on the corners of the board will score you points, and then you top up how many points you got, and the person with the most victory points is the winner of Survive Escape from Atlantis. So what do we like about Survive Escape from Atlantis? Well, the first thing is, generally this game is a kids game, right? And it's colourful. It's got wonderful colours. It's got orange, white, blue, red, wonderful colours, and with the expansion you get yellow and green. So it's a beautiful, really good contrasting colours. You've got the tiles are really thick, and they go up in stages. So the beach tiles are thin, and the woods tiles or the forest tiles are a little bit thicker, and then you've got the big chunky mountain tiles. So that's really nice sort of thought. I didn't have to do that. Aesthetically, it's wonderful. The second thing that we enjoy about this is the way the game forces you in a conflict, because the boats have only got 3 spaces, right? And you will be fighting to try and get your blokes into those boats. And it's kind of like a sort of a very, very simple area majority sort of thing, because the person who's got the most sailors in the boat is the person that gets to control the boat. Yeah, so you might move your boat to shore, get your sailors out, and then leave your opponent's sailor in the boat so they can't get out, because then the boat is just left drifting, right? So also another thing that's sort of related to that is the initial placement of the sailors means that you're going to be putting them on tiles that inevitably will be removed from the game. So you've got to think, am I going to put my weakest sailors out on the beach one so they go first, or am I going to wait until the end and maybe not be able to get my sixes on land? So there's this really good sort of conflict, thinking what am I going to do? Where am I going to place them? Where am I going to put my highest ones and where am I going to put my lowest ones? And you know that you may have to sacrifice some of your own sailors in order to win the game. And that's fantastic. So the fact that this game has got a timer built in, because that volcano could turn up at any time in the third. Once all the woods and the beaches are gone, you don't know when that volcano is going to come, and that gives you a nice excitement with hidden information. So it means that you can't just hold back and wait and think, well, that volcano is going to come out last. It could come out any time in the third sort of phase of the game. So you've got to be wary of that, and that keeps people on their toes, and it really does add some sort of excitement to this game. The next thing that we really like about this is that there are a couple of expansions. For a game that's 40 years old, that's amazing, because you've got the 5 to 6 player expansion, which adds 5 to 6 players, right? I think you've got a couple of extra expansions that add extra sea monsters and extra bits and pieces. So the fact this game is still being supported today is testament to its longevity and mass appeal. Right, so what don't we like about Survive Escape from Atlantis? Well, the first thing we don't like is the 2-player game. We did a playthrough of this. The 2-player game is A, it's too long, and B, it doesn't really work properly, because where you've got that memory aspect of trying to remember what numbers are on the bottom of your sailors, you have to take 2 players worth of sailors, right? And there's too much to remember. I was playing it and I couldn't remember where I'd put my 6s and my 1s and my whatever. My little boy, he didn't know where he'd put them anyway. We kept forgetting. The fact that the sailors are quite fiddly, and sometimes you pick them up and they fall out your hands and the numbers revealed. So there's that. It don't really work with 2 players, and I don't think it really works with 3 either. We have played it with 3, and the board was too sparsely populated. So essentially, this is a 4-player game only, right, in my opinion. And obviously, if you get the expansion, then that, which we have got, but we haven't played it with 6, that may mean that obviously we're just guessing, that may mean that the board is too populated. But we haven't played with 6, so we can't really comment on that, so ignore that. So another thing is that the hazards, like the sharks and all that, where you've got the random placement of the tiles on the board initially, you may find that the sharks and the whales and all that sort of thing come out too quick, or they all come out bunched together. And we did have that when we played this a couple of days ago, that we had a lot of whales come out, and they didn't really do anything. We were sort of moving them around thinking, well, where there's only 2 players, we're like, well, it doesn't really matter, because my boy was over this side, bunched over there, and I was over this side, bunched over here. So there's that. That's a bit of a con, that there's some of the sea monsters, it would be better if they came out, whales only came out on the beach or something, or the sharks only came out when you were pulling out the woods. I don't know, but that wouldn't be thematic, would it? So I don't know. Anyway, it's probably more of a symptom of the 2-player game more than anything. So another thing that we're probably, the memory aspect seems very dated, that we don't really see the sort of the memory game. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, that you would remember, you've got forced into this thing where you've got to remember where you put your best pieces. I don't like memory games, but that might be a personal preference of mine. I don't know, it might be, you might like it, I don't know, but not a particular big fan of memory games, and the memory aspect is more of a frustrating thing more than anything. So, is Survive Escape from Atlantis still relevant? Is it still worth playing in 2019? So I'd say yes, especially if you've got children. It's a cheapish game. You pick this up about 20 quid now, so maybe 25 quid. But if you've got kids and you're sort of around about 7, 8 years old, maybe even younger than that, I'm sure they could pick this up easy. My little boy knew what he was doing, and it's a really good game. Gets their brains thinking, with that memory thing. I mean, I don't like memory games, but your kids might, and it's always good to sort of try and train kids to sort of remember things, because my kid can't remember anything ever. But just don't expect some sort of deep, engaging strategy game, because it's nothing to do with that. It's an MB Games kids game, and it's one of the better ones. That's why it still survives, to this day. So yeah, I mean, we'd sort of recommend it. There are better games out there. This sort of a time game, you know, and with the fact the map shrinks, it might appeal to kids who play those sorts of battle royale games. So yeah, we give it probably about 7 out of 10 with the 5 to 6 player expansion. Don't play it with 2 players, play it with 4 players only if you're going to do it, or maybe 3 at a push. And yeah, that's Survive Escape from Atlantis. There's a reason why this is still in print, and there's a reason why it's people are still playing it, and I'm still talking about it 40 odd years or 30 odd years after it's released. So if you, like we said, if you're new here, please consider subscribing to this channel for more stuff, and we'll see you next time.